Okay, hello everyone. I am here with the exuberant Effy from the Glitter Hood. How are you, Effy? How are you today? I'm so happy to
I'm
be talking to you again.
I'm so good. I'm so happy to be talking to you too.
And I was just saying that I'm admiring your beautiful scarf slash sarong. It was a gift from your daughter, you said.
It was, yeah, it was a gift for my daughter, and I wear it whenever I'm feeling the neck thing.
Yeah, you said. I think you look beautiful. I think you really look beautiful, and the color really complements your beautiful hair.
Thank
So
you.
there's nothing to be worried about. Well, let's get started. I wanted to ask you first up, I know, of course, lots about you, but not everyone does. So tell the lovely people that are watching this interview a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what kind of art you do.
Okay. Hi. Um, I am a journal artist, and I've only recently been able to claim that term. The word artist was kind of sketchy for me for a long, long time, but considering that every single day I sit down and make art in a journal, there's just no way to deny that I'm a journal artist. I facilitate a program called Book of Days, which is an encouraging, supportive atmosphere for women who want to do journal art and memory keeping in a way that allows them to create a system so that they're sitting down every day and just doing it. And I also facilitate different book clubs and things like that where people can go really deep into journal art from a different perspective than they might otherwise. So it's not just about the pretty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We,
Uh-huh.
we focus on self-inquiry and self-awareness and in some cases recovery from trauma, lots of really fun stuff, but also we also go to the deep stuff as
Yes,
well.
I see. Okay, so how did your journey in life bring you into this kind of journaling world and the mixed media art world? How did you get there?
Well, I through many years of recovery from childhood trauma, I had developed a journaling practice, but it was written journaling, and that led to writing a lot of prose, a lot of poetry, and it was really my like lifeline. That's where I went to with whatever was going on with me, whatever I was dealing with, went in the page. And then we had an experience a few years ago where my eldest son developed a very serious devastating addiction to methamphetamines.
Mm.
And there was something about that experience that completely blocked me creatively. I couldn't write anymore, and it was making me crazy.
Mm.
So over a period of probably a year where I was just really blocked and really frustrated by it, I was sort of casting about for ways to unblock myself. And I was familiar with The Artist's Way
Mm-hmm.
by
Yep.
Karen, and
Yep.
she suggests you try something else. You know, go wander off and do something else for a while. So I was looking at the internet and stumbled upon art journaling as a hobby and fell completely in love with it, even though I couldn't even draw a stick figure. Like, we're talking zero artistic skill whatsoever. A little bit of interest in calligraphy when I was younger, but other than that, really nothing art-wise. But there was something about it that felt like, okay, this could be the key
Mm.
that unlocks me. So I started taking art journaling classes. I started with Connie Hosvika's class
Right.
from
Yep.
Studio.
Beautiful.
I watched a lot of Millie Andy videos. And I found that the more that I did it, the more invested I became in developing my skills. And that unlocked me creatively. So I now find like I'm blogging again, I'm writing poetry again, I can write, but it's in addition to something that has brought so much color and fun and glitter and depth into my life.
Mm.
It developed out of trauma, but it's turned into this like massively, amazingly fabulous lifestyle, really. It's a whole way of life for me now that takes up it's what I do for a living. It's what I do for pleasure. It's what I do
Yes.
when I need to work stuff out.
Yes.
So it's become a very, it's almost full circle. Like I
Yeah.
had to find this. This was my destiny. I know that's a big word. That's how it feels. That this
Yes.
is my destiny.
So, so tell me, because I think what you're talking about mostly is now, because I know, because we've talked before, and I read your blog and everything, but that you're mostly talking here now of book of days, where, as I understand it, you have literally a daily journal practice, right?
It's 5 days a week.
Right, 5 days a week. So tell me a bit more about Book of Days, a bit more in depth. So it's 5 days a week, and have you got your journal there?
This is my second book.
Oh, great. Oh,
First
wow.
book was like half this size, and it was way too small to work in. I needed something much bigger to work in.
Yeah.
So what I do is, on the Monday,
All right, yeah.
I do a full page, a full spread. And this is where I'm usually either really celebrating something or dreaming really big or working something out or dealing with stuff. And then the rest of the week, what I call MDS, or multi-day spread.
Yeah, okay.
It's a shorter treatment. So it gets, where this might take me an hour and a half.
Yes.
This will take a half hour.
Yes. I really like the layout that you do a whole week on spread over 2 pages, but then the other 4 in smaller segments.
So essentially you're getting a whole week's worth of content in one spread. The reason that I was very inspired by Julie Faith-Ann Balzer, who is amazing. I spent 30 days in your art journal course, and she does this where she does multiple days in one spread. It's an example of an important day.
Beautiful.
This was for April 1st. This was my anniversary.
It's so introspective, but it's beautiful, yeah.
Thank you.
And that's such a pretty face there, yeah.
So what I do for Book of Days is I sit down on Monday and I record the whole thing and edit it. I write a newsletter to accompany it, telling people how I'm doing, what I'm up to, and then they get the video as well. It's somewhat instructional in the sense that we do cover supplies used and techniques used and stuff like that. And then throughout the rest of the week, I record all 4 days. And it's fast forwarded.
Sure.
So it's not as instructional.
No.
But it's more inspirational.
Sure.
So they see what I did that week with tip-ins and inks and whatever.
Can I just interrupt you? I just want to hold that journal and just kind of like treasure it and try and read every single thing. You know what I mean? Because there's so much to it.
Here, this was the first Friday where we were supposed to hang out together on Skype.
Oh, that's lovely.
And it's really interesting to try and find different ways to incorporate different days into a spread. Sometimes it's fairly simple. This week is fairly simple.
Oh, that's nice.
It's just grids.
But still, I love seeing other people's journals, and you can endlessly gaze at them. Sorry, I just thought I heard something. Gaze at the colors and all the texture and the layering and then the words and the and I can forever kind of and as soon as I see your journal, I go, oh yeah, I want to do more journaling, but I can't.
Time is it can be really time consuming. I try to keep the MDS spreads down to like 15-20 minutes tops, because many of I have 1,250 women in the program as of today. 498 of whom are in our Facebook group. So there's lots of communing and interaction, but lots of them work or they have, 3 kids.
Yeah, exactly.
So the time to sit down is, it's just not there. That's why I developed the system where 1 day a week, you take an hour, hour and a half. That could be your Sunday or your Monday or whatever. And the rest of the week is quick. Just quick, just so that you're actually doing some memory keeping, doing something creative without it having to be a great big highfalutin production, some pen, some ink sprays and you're done. You're done for the day. Just a little note about what happened that day and that's all it takes.
Yes. And do you find as well, I kept it was 2007 or 2008, I think, where I was keeping a daily journal, and I was really rigid about it. I was really regimented. I said I wanted to do a journal page a day, and I did it in a moleskin. I have several. And I noticed that as I did it regimentedly, daily, that my skill just developed so much more quickly than I would have done if I noticed, because before I would just do maybe once a week a bit of a sketch here and there. But because I sat down and every day I wanted to do something, like I wanted to draw a hand or a face or a bird or whatever, and I just noticed that the more, because I forced myself to do it every day, I really developed really quickly. Do you find a similar thing with your own practice?
Without question. The whole idea to do it every day started because I had seen a video by Ira Glass from American, I can't remember the show, but it's a show that it's a radio show that he does, very, very popular in the United States. And he talked about creativity, and he talked about the gap between our good taste when we first start out and what we're actually making. So as creative beings, our taste is excellent. What we want to make, however, doesn't happen right away.
No.
You know, we make crap at first. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
When you first start out, the stuff you're making does not meet your own internal standard. And what happens is a lot of people quit at that point. They're like, I can't do it, and they quit. So the idea of a daily journal practice for me was, okay, I want to bridge the gap between what I want to do in my head and what I'm actually capable of.
Yes.
And I had this understanding that quality came from quantity. It doesn't come from noodling about it or thinking about it or wanting it. It comes from actually sitting down in a disciplined manner and doing it every day. They say it takes 10,000 hours.
Oh, really?
To master something.
Oh, okay. I see. Wow. Oh, that's interesting. Wonder how many hours I've spent.
I'm sure you've already put in your time. I'm sure you've put in your But I do know that I went from being unsure of how to use a specific product or how to make the proportions of a face or, you know, there was always sort of this fear as I approached the page. There was this, I don't know if I can make what I want to have happen here. That is getting less and less and less.
But it's interesting that you say this, because, you know, you hear it in every art form. Because I even heard, I used to follow Neil Gaiman. You know Neil Gaiman?
Yes,
I love his books, although I used to follow him on Twitter, and then I was like, oh, you Twitter too much, man, and then I unfollowed him. But anyway, he used to say, whenever someone asked him, I want to be a writer, what do I do? And he would just say, write. And the same, I suppose, with painting. If you want to be a painter or a drawer, draw, paint. Keep doing it, and don't despair when the first drawing and the second and the third and the fourth and maybe the 100th isn't quite, as you say, meets your internal expectations, because you will get there, but it takes a while, you know. And also try initially not to go, oh, the expectation, you know, don't set the bar too high initially, because then if you just strive for that almost impossible thing, then you're going to get really disappointed all the time, and then it becomes almost like a torturous experience. But yeah, I agree. It's just keep doing it, and if you do that daily practice like you did, it's a do at the moment, you really develop. Are you still there? I
am.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear you for a sec. Good. Now I can hear you again.
One thing I wanted to say about that too is that you can really, if you go into it with expectations that you're always going to be making beautiful pages, which I think a lot of people do. They want to make those beautiful pages, and they don't have a spiritual reason or an emotional reason or some other sort of raison d'etre for their journal practice. They can become very disappointed very quickly. But I was really lucky. I had a purpose. It wasn't just about making pretty faces. You know, it was about self-inquiry and self-awareness and figuring out how I tick, and that came naturally to me. And that is the one thing that I desperately wanted to offer to people coming into art journaling. That's why I've been so eager to share right from the very beginning. This doesn't just have to be about making pretty pages. This can really change how you live, move, and have your being in the world. This can completely transform how you respond to people. It can give you so much information about where you're coming from, what your triggers are, why you react the way you react. It's intensely healing.
Yes,
That's why I was so attracted to you right from the beginning, because of your focus on that, on healing through art journaling.
For me, it's very different. Well, I kind of have the journaling stuff, and then I obviously have I'm making a painting with the purpose, not just the purpose to sell a print of it, but just sort of more, it's going to be a finished painting. And the thing is that most of the time for me, the two things have sort of lived side by side and were similar. What I mean is, in most of my kind of finished paintings, there is also some kind of healing message in it. However, in my journaling, sorry, I just heard dinner in the background.
Okay.
In my journaling, I'm much less worried about, oh, this needs to be a finished product. I just love just messing it up and going over and then writing anything that's going on for me and that I don't like or that I do like, and then coming out of that going, done that. And with the paintings, I will also do positive messages and stuff. But it might be, it's a different sort of process for me. But they do have a similar flavor, I suppose.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
There's a definite overlap for me between what I see you doing in your art journal and what I see you doing in your paintings.
In the kind of paintings or the ones that are sort of finished products that you can, although some of the journal pages are also kind of finished products that you can do stuff with, and then I put into postcards. But so there's an overlap. But with my journaling, I feel I can be more free and kind of not care so much about. Not that I cared that much then by the paintings, but there's more sort of a restrictive kind of approach to that. Yeah, yes. I love that about journaling, and I miss it at this point because I don't have much time. Yeah. But I wanted to ask you about, you were talking about how you share with your students or the people on Book of Days and your artistic process. But I know also that in your videos and on your blog, you've also shared a lot about your personal life and about your background. So you live your life quite publicly, like I do to a certain extent as well. And I just wanted to ask you this: what is that like for you? And how that is for you?
Yeah, it's a very vulnerable place to be. It can be very scary. Often what happens is, especially if you are talking about really deep stuff like recovery from childhood sexual abuse or physical abuse, or spousal abuse, or living with alcoholic parents, those kinds of things can really trigger people. And while you are, you know that the people you work for, when you're writing, when you're arting, when you're sharing that stuff, are people who are either in recovery already and understand how hard it is to share these things and have deep respect for your authenticity. There are other people who will be incredibly triggered by what you're sharing. And it's almost as though they then project their shadow onto you. Like they hate your guts with vitriol. You know what I mean? Because you are revealing something through sharing about what might have gone on for them. So there can be intense rejection. Now, as someone who experienced all of that in my childhood, intense rejection is really painful. Yeah. I come at this with such enormous abandonment issues already, and then you're facing some pretty intense rejection. But the flip side of that is that you get these enormously beautiful letters from people who have never shared their story, who have never told another living soul what happened to them, or who are just now coming into awareness of how it impacted them. And they, I can be at times mistaken for a healer, and I am decidedly not that. The people that are in my program aren't my students. We're a sisterhood, we're a community, and we are doing this alongside one another. There is no top down. Yeah. It's alongside one another. The only place where I may have some expertise is in how to go in, access your stuff, and bring it out into the world in a way that's healing. I do have some expertise in that. But as far as the art stuff, I'm like, I have artists in my program that are like light years ahead of where I'm at. So it's scary. It's scary being publicly accessible in the way that I am. But the payoff, I'm going to get choked up if I keep talking about the sisterhood. The payoff is incredible because what you see are people coming back to life. Yes. It's in ways that they didn't expect. So you see people who are starting with like line drawings and sketches that suck. This is stuff that sucks. When we first start, we all suck. And then you see them blossoming, and you see their confidence growing, and you see them stepping into their own personal sovereignty in ways that they never expected that they would. You see them leaving abusive husbands, gaining that kind of strength, where they're leaving abusive husbands, where they're detaching from toxic relationships, where they're making better choices for themselves or going into recovery for addiction. It's insane. Like, when you are available with your stuff,
Yes. Yes.
you make it possible for other people to be available with their stuff.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
It's alchemical, and it's amazing, and it's the work of a lifetime. I'm so gobsmacked, amazed in the position, just by virtue of telling the truth. That's all it takes.
Well, exactly. I mean, and that's something that always moves me. I think whenever I read a blog post or see someone express any kind of honest, authentic, whatever has happened to them, I usually admire that a lot, because you usually have straight away a whole load of people open up in the comments. You'll see them say, "Oh my God, thank you so much for sharing that with me. I didn't know that there were other people like me," or etc. etc. And I've seen it happen on the Jenny Lawson, Jenny Lawson, the bloggers.com.
Yeah.
She suffers
She's
from it.
awesome.
She's also, I'm reading her book at the moment, but she suffers from anxiety disorder and rheumatoid arthritis as well, or depression, I think. And so she'll come out once in a while with a blog about it, and she just gets so much support, but also people that feel, I don't know, almost encouraged by the fact that someone who's so successful and can write with such, hilarity has also got sort of human problems. And, Leonie, Goddess Leonie comes out, has written about her depression. I know Samantha Kira shared something in the video vlog last year, that sort of stuff. And I love that, because it just immediately for me in that sense, it breaks, it crumbles any kind of walls, and you straight away go, it humanizes the person, and it gives you permission to go, oh, it's okay to be human. I don't have to be a perfect super woman or whatever. I can be me. I think you give permission to people to be them.
Yes.
And by doing so, they can start their journey of healing if they haven't been able to start that yet. So.
Well, and it's also very redemptive. So when we talk about my childhood, we're talking about some really brutal experiences that, out of context, just sound like horror. They're just horrible. But when you take the situation that I now find myself in, where my experience and my sharing that experience gives hope to people, it redeems it. It's like, okay, maybe... And it's going to sound a little woo-woo, but I'm down with the woo-woo. But maybe I was given these trials and these lessons and these things to experience, so that because I have the specific ingredients that it takes to talk about it openly and to be a beacon for people, that you can move past it. It does not have to define you.
No.
You can make a beautiful life out of ashes of those kinds of experiences. So very, very redemptive.
Phoenix, man.
Amen.
I agree. I agree. I mean, I was talking about this in the lesson for Life book last month. Not celebrating, honoring your past.
Yes.
And I do want to preface this by saying that I know that there are people who have had terrible experiences in their past and can't see the benefits, so I don't want to say every single experience has, a benefit. That's not what I'm trying to say. Yes. But in my case, one big thing was I was really bullied and rejected a lot as a child by all sorts of people. And that was a horrible experience. And I think that has created or made me much more empathic. And also the rheumatoid arthritis, if someone asks me, if you could live your life again and you could choose to not have the rheumatism, would you choose not to have it? And I would say, no, I would choose to have it. Not that I'm a masochist.
Right.
But because it taught me so much, and it taught me so incredibly much that part of me, as painful as it can be, is also grateful to the illness for what it has taught me and what it opened up for me. So and I'm again, because I shudder at the thought of, I know what the stuff that's happened to you, and I'm not saying, oh, you should be grateful or whatever. That's the most horrifying thing. But I mean, the fact that someone like you can, you in your situation, you feel, you somehow these experiences, like you say, now maybe you had the ingredients to you utilize them now to basically be an example for people that have perhaps had similar experiences. So I Yeah.
I'm really resonating with what you're saying, and I know that there are people who have had horrible experiences who really cannot get past how horrible those experiences are. And I mean, I love them and hold them in my heart, and wish them all the healing in the world. But I know for myself that I do not know who I would have been had these things not happened to me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the person that I am, and the experiences that I've had, and the love that I have in my life, the depths to which I can go in self-inquiry, and how that's changed my life. I want that. I want all that. And I'm so blessed, and I have so much gratitude for all of those things. And so if you could turn the clock back, would you change anything? I'm like, not if it changes the trajectory of my life.
Well, exactly that, because I said the same last week. I said if I could learn the same thing from the rheumatism without all the pain, yes, okay.
Yeah.
But that's probably, that.
If I could find myself right here, right now, and not have experienced that, fine. That's all right with me.
Yeah.
But I somehow believe in my heart of hearts that I am the sum plus of those experiences and how they have shaped me. And then there's also some genetic stuff that allows you to take those experiences and not let them break you. Some people, they get broken. And I'm not saying that there are people for whom there is no hope, but I am saying that there are some people who they just can't find their way out. And that's where, severe addiction and suicide and moving on to become abusers themselves comes into play. I consider myself intensely lucky that was not the case for me. It could have been there, but for the grace of the divine.
Really. And I often think that, because I know more people obviously have had severely abused backgrounds, and to me it's like, I hear these stories and I think, well, you have all the right in the world to be an abuser, to be horrible to everyone, to become an addict, and it would be understandable. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I would prefer it not for yourself as well. This is probably not something that you enjoy, but I can completely understand it, and it would be excusable and justifiable. Do you know what I mean? Because some people go through this most horrific things, and I wouldn't even bat an eyelash in the sense of how understanding that.
It would totally make sense to you.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. And therefore, I obviously admire people who are able to come out of a background such as yourself, and then come out of that sort of flying high and doing the work, because then your number one abuse, and then you have to spend endless amounts of years in doing all the work to undo the damage done. It's still your responsibility. No one else goes, oh, okay, sorry, that was done to you. Hold on, let me wave a wand for you, which should be the case, right? No, you have to then, you then have to do all the work as well. It should really be someone else, right? Anyway.
But if I had to do all the work, I could have turned into a shallow, horrible, narcissistic.
Perhaps, yes, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
You just don't know. You just don't know. Like I know that there are family members who I do quite resemble, who are really not nice people, who didn't have similar experiences to mine, and are really like pebble deep. You know what I'm saying? Like. Yeah, just not very in touch.
So they haven't gone down the path of looking into themselves.
Well, everything looks good, everything's okay. That's the way that they operate, and I can't imagine living that way. I just don't see where the juice is in that kind of. As long as everything in its place and looks perfect, that would drive me insane. I'd be bored, I think. But I wonder if I hadn't experienced what I have experienced, who would I be?
Yes.
And I love myself deeply. I have so much respect and pride in who I am, and that took a lot of years, a lot of years. But knowing how much I love myself, there is not, I would change some of my challenges for sure, but not at the expense of my essential self ever. I rock.
I agree. You do. You rock, baby. Glitter hood. I'm trying to kind of incorporate some kind of glitter hood, phoenix. Yay! No, some kind of what is this? Cheerleaders. We don't have cheerleaders here, right? Do you have cheerleaders in Canada?
We do.
Oh, okay. They don't exist here. You have very rare, maybe after school clubs, but it's not part of the school thing like in the States, and they're anyway. So This is me
Yay,
cheering you
go
on.
glitter, go glitter.
Anywho, let's talk a little bit more about your art. This is just a very much lighter question probably, but
Yay.
just let's talk a little bit about materials.
Mhm.
What sort of materials? I mean, I'm guessing from looking in your journal that you use a wide variety of materials, as we mixed media artists do. But have you
Yes.
got any favorites, and are there any that you want to kind of talk about and share with us?
Yes. Okay, I love acrylic paint. I think acrylic paint is like my first love, my go-to thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you put me on a desert island and said you can only have one art supply, I'd say I need my paints.
Okay.
And my favorite brand is Golden, but I also use Da Vinci because Da Vinci is a little less expensive. There are some colors in the Da Vinci that just don't cut it, like the green gold is not great and the quinacridone magenta is not great. I go for Golden for those. But for the rest, you can pretty much go a little bit cheaper. But if I'm like just playing, I'll use Liquitex Basics because they're just fine for that. It's just that I see my journals as like, these are my legacy. They'll be left to my daughter.
Mm.
So I want them to last. So good supplies are important because good supplies tend to be archival and acid-free and stuff like that. So I'm not a snob in the sense that I can't use cheaper supplies. I just prefer to know that these things will last so that I can pass them on to my daughter and so on and so on. I also love mark makers. I have a pen addiction. I have a problem. I should probably cover for this. Anything Sakura makes is in my studio. I have them all, the Sakura soufflés, the Sakura glazes, the Sakura jelly rolls. I don't have the gold shadow yet, which reminds me.
It just makes me laugh so much because it all sounds like food. I know I said that already.
Yeah, I think they're really smart. They know they're marketing to, middle-aged women who have disposable income, so they call it soufflé and glaze. I also
jelly
love
beans.
cake fun. I love Copic markers, but they're very spendy, so I don't use them very often. But really, paint and gel medium are my primary tools because I do some decoupage and collage. And you can write with paint and a fine liner. So the mark makers aren't really that necessary. I just love them. They make me feel so childlike. Having a marker or a pen in your hand, it makes me feel so liberated, and I have so much control. So, but mixed media, baby. Like, give me anything and I'll play with it. Yes. I love it all.
Yes. And is this journal that you've got, did you bind that yourself, or did you buy one?
Coptic bound watercolor paper. It's 140 pounds.
Okay.
Paper, which I just covered with watercolor paper. So this is all watercolor paper.
And what sort of, if we can just, as we're talking brands, what sort of brand of paper is that? Because we get a lot of,
this is the Canson.
Okay, because I get a lot of questions on Livebook from people, paper. And recently I saw Samantha Kira talked about her paper in a video as well, and because it seems to be the one that I have, the hot press doesn't seem to be around much.
Yeah, it's very difficult to find, and it's very expensive when you can find it here in the Americas. I'm not sure what it's like in the UK.
Yes, this here in the local art store
is Fabriano.
Yes.
The Fabriano Aquarello watercolor paper, cold press, 90 pound, takes everything I throw at it. Okay. This one I have to be somewhat careful because the Canson is not quite as tough as the Fabriano paper is. And you can get a stack of 75 sheets of the Fabriano, I think it's 9.5 by 11 or something, for $26 here in Canada. That's very, very reasonable. 75 sheets means 3 journals.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
So that can last quite a long time.
Okay.
But it's pretty good. It's doing pretty good, but you'll notice it does buckle.
Okay, yeah. I've never used Canson. The only ones I've ever used is I have Fabriano, and mine is always De La Rowney. I never hear Americans or Canadians talk about De La Rowney, and I'm always going De La Rowney, De La Rowney, De La Rowney. Yeah. It just seems to be in countries it's slightly different, the brands, because. Oh yeah, Jane Davenport was talking about Prismacolor pencils. I've never seen them, and I don't think anywhere, and I don't think they produce them here in the UK anymore, or ever have.
Well, you all have Derwent.
Yes. Yeah. I use those, but apparently they're not the same, or they're quite, they're different, and everyone writes on their.
The Color Soft pencils from Derwent is not as waxy as the Primacolors. I should have mentioned that. I do a lot of portrait making with Primacolors. I love. They're actually not called Primacolor. I come from Montreal, so I pronounce the
S. You don't pronounce the S.
Prismacolor.
Prisma, yes.
But I call them Primacolor because that's my French roots.
Oh, of course.
But I love them. They're very spongy. Again, they're
Yeah.
very spongy. And if you're buying the student grade, you're not going to have the same results as if you buy the artist grade.
Oh,
but
okay.
if you buy them open stock and you just buy portrait colors, perfect.
Okay, well, I might have to try them out. I just, the thing is, when I was talking to Jane, I just think, we all, as a mixed media artist, we sometimes go a bit mental when it comes to buying supplies. And then at some point I was able to curb myself, because there's one shop called Hobbycraft here, and you go there and it's just endless supplies, and and your brain goes, I need that, no, I need that, and you don't.
Yeah.
You don't, you don't, but you go, no, I need it. And now I have this whole cupboard full of stuff, and I go, now I force myself to use these things, you know what I mean? Go, oh God, otherwise it's just, what a waste. But
we instituted something in Book of Days called Happy Mail. So all the members of the Facebook group are on the Happy Mail list if they choose to be. And then we send all of our stuff around the world.
What, you mean
so
supplies?
People get envelopes stuffed full of papers and ephemera and all the things that you thought you needed, but have been sitting in a box under your studio table for a year. We just throw it into envelopes and send it all over the world. Very exciting part. I love Happy Mail.
I mean, I don't know if I could do that with my golden paints, but
no, it's mostly ephemera and papers,
and
little stickers, bling, and stuff like that.
No, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. But let me just have a look. I wanted to also ask you. If you could tell me a little bit, because I follow you on your blog and on your Facebook, and you've been mentioning the Red Madonna community that you were part of, and also something called the Cowgirls. Is it the Cowgirls?
Yes.
This is not the same thing. This is not the same.
They're run by the same woman.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about that. Yeah.
Cosmic Cowgirl University and the Red Madonna are both. They both have Shiloh Sophia McLeod at the helm. Shiloh Sophia McLeod is an American artist. She paints iconic portraits of the divine feminine. Everything that she paints, when you look at it, you just see the goddess bursting out from her paintings. She's an incredibly talented painter. She now teaches something called The Color of Woman, which is an intuitive painting program that is really about empowerment of women. She teaches women to paint the divine feminine. And I was lucky enough to be invited to participate in the Red Madonna. I was beyond thrilled. And that's a year-long program where every month we paint a new Mary. So Mary being the mother of Christ. This past month we actually were painting Mary of Magdalene, but we're painting the divine feminine in her Judeo-Christian context. And even though I'm not Christian and I'm pagan and mystic, it's still rocking my Pop-Tarts. It's still really powerful and way cheaper than therapy. So, and you can still sign up. So if that's something you're interested in, I'm not teaching there. I'm just giving props to Shiloh because it's amazing, an amazing, amazing program. And Cosmic Cowgirls is a group of creative women, most of whom are creative entrepreneurs like myself, who are either in the business of creative entrepreneurship or want to be. There are writers, there are artists, there are potters, there are jewelry makers. But there is a sense among the cowgirls of our own personal sovereignty being paramount. That is the most important thing, is our sovereignty in the world, both financial, emotional, psychological, having healthy relationships with ourselves, with the divine, with our creativity. Very, very powerful group to belong to. And I have learned so much from them and have also received so much attention in terms of they featured me a few times in the Cosmic Cowgirls magazine, which is amazing. Because all of a sudden you find yourself going from 100 hits a day on your blog to many more than that. I won't say how many more, but many, many more than that. So it's a beautiful group to be connected to. And we have monthly calls. And in fact, tonight there's a Cosmic Cowgirl call in which we're going to be discussing identity. Where else do you get to go do that?
Oh, cool.
So light a candle and grab a bottle of wine and get on the phone, and we're all on the phone together and we're talking about the principle of identity. It's really quite amazing.
So hold on. So this is also a course, or this is just a group of people that like to hang out together?
Cosmic University does have courses that run regularly. Like the Spark course runs quite regularly, a couple of times a year. But it's more a community than that. The courses are available to Cosmic Cowgirls at a discount, and really anything Shiloh McLeod does out in the world, we get a discount because we're kind of her posse. It's also very much like a sisterhood. There's a sense of community there. It is women only because it's cowgirls, not cowboys. But courses do come through the community quite regularly at a discount to the girls. There's also Mojo Monday. So every Monday there's a new post by one of the massively fabulous writers within the Cosmic Cowgirl community. And there's some word that there may be a really interesting journal art program coming out starting in June with an introductory lesson in May. And I know that because I happen to be facilitating that. So.
Look at how wide my smile got when you started to say that. I was like...
the details were just sort of nailed down recently, so I'm still passing out. I'm still feeling excitement over, Shiloh is she's a painter. All her work is on canvas, but to be noticed by an artist of her caliber, and to have her say, we love what you do and we'd like you to share it with our community is like mind-blowing. It's completely mind-blowing. And I just want to take this opportunity, Tam, to tell you that if not for you, none of this would be happening. None of this would be happening. There have been journal artists out there who I've admired, whose work I have admired, and who have influenced me in many ways. Connie Hosvika helped me find my messy. That was a very important phase that I went through. I was just throwing stuff at the journal. And that was very freeing and very important. But I did not believe that I could draw until I took your fabulous faces. And when I took your fabulous faces and drew my first face, you completely changed the trajectory of my life.
Yay! Oh, well, thank you.
I get to talk to you. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not just someone from afar that I admire from afar. I get to talk to you. And that has healed so much and redeemed so much in my life. So I just love you so much and can't thank you enough for what you've meant to me. And
well, thank you. I mean, it's very moving to hear that, basically.
No, it's not because she hired me to teach a life book. It's because she's amazing and I love her.
Thank you. It's also for me, it's like incredible to hear these sort of stories. When someone says, "Oh, that changed me," or "This really made a massive difference to whatever." That's the cream on top of everything for what I do. Of course, I love teaching and I love sharing what I know, and then to hear and if someone takes anything, either the art stuff or the healing stuff, and it really makes a big difference to them, then I'm just like on cloud 11. Because that's what it's all about for me. So I am equally as moved by that. Thank you.
Well, you know how I feel about your NVC stuff and your healing stuff. I just recently did a video in which I talked about how that's changed me. I came from a very violent background and have learned to communicate very violently and have made a lot of mistakes in being a public persona online in terms of how harshly I can establish my boundaries. I'm very prickly around my boundaries. And when someone crosses them, I can be very ungentle, to say the least. That's probably a euphemism for really, really not nice. I can be very, back off because you go through so much learning how to have your voice and stand in your truth and have your boundaries.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That you pendulum swing from having no voice and no boundaries to right?
Yes.
So what I've learned from you is how to have empathy even when a person is crossing your boundary, even when you know that you have every right to say back the F off. There are ways of doing it that heal you too, that feed your soul. There are ways of doing it that do more harm than good inside you. It hurts you than it has to. And there are ways of doing it that open up the relationship to communication and healing. And I'm learning that from watching you. Learning. Not there yet.
Yeah.
Learn.
Okay, so sorry about that. I just got interrupted by one of my children. Okay, now we're nearly at the end of the interview, and I just wanted to ask you a few more things. And one is, this is something that I think a lot of people who share their work on video or either in class format or other format will have been either approached about or have thought about, or something that the mixed media community talks about a lot on their blogs and with each other, and that is the concept of copying other people's work. And if you teach, or if you share your work on YouTube or whatever, quite a lot of times people or students tend to do something similar. How do you feel about that?
I feel honored. I absolutely love it when someone is inspired by something that I've done and then they take it in their own direction. And I see a lot of that because I am so intensely involved with the community of women who are doing Book of Days. So I'll do something on video and then you'll see, 5 or 6 or 10 spreads that come out that are very similar to what it is that I've done. And my feeling on that is that none of us learn without first mimicking. That is how we learn. When we are children in kindergarten, that's when we begin the process of copying what it is that we're supposed to turn into skills of our own. And I really compare it to handwriting. When you first learn to handwrite, you are copying exactly off of this strip of letters atop the chalkboard. Yeah. And those letters look just like the letters that are up there, and that's how you learn. And in fact, you're taught to do them exactly that way, so that when you begin to develop your own style, as we all do with our handwriting, we will have legible handwriting. And I feel the same way about copying art. Now, if you're copying someone's exact piece and then you're putting it up for sale, obviously that's problematic, right? Yeah. But if you are in a journey with someone and learning them, I could never have learned to draw faces unless I had drawn them exactly the way you showed me to. So bless you. And I think that excellent teachers expect that their students or the people who are learning from them are going to copy them until they get their own voice or their own style. So I'm flattered by it. I'm honored by it. If people want to sit and watch my videos and do exactly what it is that I've done, it's still going to be theirs. It's their effort, their time, their energy that went into the page. If you've copied it exactly and it looks just like mine, just for the sake of, avoiding confusion, if you're posting it online, just say, where you were inspired by, who inspired you. And that's just respectful, not necessarily necessary, but just respectful. But as far as if you use a technique I showed you that's stealing, I'm seriously offended by that language. If you use a technique that I showed you, that's learning. That's how we learn. So copy me.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's fascinating to hear you say that, because I find as well. I always think, well, I can understand if it's literally, let's say a class that has a certain process and a technique, and if someone takes exactly that technique and then moves on and teaches that, of course that is, like you say, problematic. I like how you put it that way. But the techniques as standalones, let's say, I don't know, stenciling or using watercolor crayons. I don't hold the
trademark,
the trademark, or the patent on. You can never, use watercolor crayons because I use them or something. But that sometimes you get the impression that some people feel that a certain technique is theirs, and I suppose there are. If I used. I don't know, an old sock, and I mixed it with some, petroleum, and then mixed it in with some face cream. And this is this new technique that I'm making up right now. Okay, that might be my technique.
Right. Look, someone first filleted a fish.
Yes.
Someone first filleted a fish, and they perfected it to where you get a perfect fillet. But you and I have no idea who first filleted that fish.
Exactly. And
we all fillet regularly. And when we put the fish down on the dinner table, we don't say, fillet technique first learned by, right? We all make fire in one way or the other by flipping on a light switch or turning on the stove. And there was an originator of fire. Somebody first discovered how to make fire. for me, techniques like spraying ink through a stencil or a gel medium transfer, those kinds of things come into, it's like the collective unconscious. It's available. We pluck these ideas out of the air. We watch YouTube videos and run off to try them. This is art. This is what art is. Brilliant artists steal.
Yeah, there's a quote there, isn't there?
Picasso, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you have come up with something that is a chemical reaction that has never been seen before, and you patent it, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But don't demonstrate it on YouTube and expect that people aren't going to try it.
Yeah. Hello. Okay, so everyone's here.
I'm having a visit with Tam's family.
Yes, we're having a visit. Here are the hard glasses. And we're just finishing the interview. And everyone wants to know where we can find Effy online.
So my hub, the place where you can find everything that I do, is theglitterhood.com.
Theglitterhood.com. Yes.
That's right. You can also use effywild.com. That redirects to the Glitterwood. So if effywild.com is easier for you, just type that.
Okay.
But my main URL now is theglitterhood.com.
That's kind of a little bit more fun to type, so I would go there.
I think so too. Yeah.
And the Book of Days, if someone wants to sign up for that, where do they go for that?
bookofdays.org.
bookofdays.org. Okay. And let's show everyone else. Dylan's wearing the hard glasses.
Oh, I love those. That's adorable.
They look awesome on him.
Look at Elliot's face. That is precious. He's just staring. Like, who is that person? Shocking.
He's so confused. He does that a lot, actually. He's a very confused baby, aren't you? Happy and confused.
He's so adorable. I just want to chew his cheeks.
Yeah, he's very lovely.
I just want to chew your cheeks.
But he was screaming his head off just now. And I just wanted to say the last thing is, you mentioned you will be working with Shiloh, and you'll be sharing your journaling process in a program that she's going to run, but you don't have all the details quite yet. So you're going to be blogging about that soon, yes? Am I right?
I will be, yes. And if you want to know about Cosmic Cowgirls, which is awesome, cosmiccowgirlsuniversity.com.
Is that all
Cosmic?
And that's all one word, is it?
Magazine. Pardon?
That's all one word? Cosmic Cowgirls University?
CosmicCowgirlsUniversity.com, yeah.
Hold on. Your blog they can find on theglitterhood.com as well. That's the same. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, well,
and I'm going to have links to everything that I'm up to. I'm teaching in Angels in My Studio. Of course, I'm teaching Life Book.
Oh, yes.
Awesome. I'll be working with the Cosmic Cowgirl Rodeo. So all of that stuff I'm going to be putting in my sidebar over the next couple of days as time permits.
And I can put it, if you have it, I will put it in the link this here. Lovely. All right. Thank you. Effy, thank you so much for talking to me. He's saying bye. He's going bye. Thank you so much for talking to me. We made it.
We did.
Yes, and my apologies for having everyone here in the interview, but it just happened. It's only the end of the interview.
I love his face. I can't get over his face.
Here, go closer. Give Effy a kiss. Go on this way. Go this way.
Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Okay. You want to say bye, Dylan?
Can I have a kiss too, Dylan?
There.
Effy. Little kisses?
No kisses.
Little kisses. Mwah.
Goodbye, Effy. Oh, you said goodbye, Effy. All right.